"Do you love me?" Jill, my client, asked me. Whew. My heart skipped a beat. There she was, sitting on my couch across from me, her long brown hair flowing down both shoulders, her soft brown eyes searching mine. She had a nice pink blouse on, blue jeans. One hand was in her lap, the other one bent up, clasping her neck. One foot was on the floor, the other one bent up under her so that she was sitting on it. Her purse was sitting haphazardly at the end of the couch where she had flung it by habit on her way into my office that morning. In the split second after Jill asked this question, I suddenly became very aware of my office. It was in its usual state. It was clean, just the right temperature, warmly lit. A skylight in the ceiling helped with that, allowing just the right amount of light in. And I could feel the leather chair underneath me. My feet were propped up in the matching ottoman. In the split seconds after Jill asked this significant question, I felt myself fiddling with the arms of my chair, absent-mindedly touching it. I'd already spent so many hours in that chair, and I knew its contours by heart. I shifted in my seat and hoped that Jill wouldn't notice my face turning red. I could hear the distant sound of traffic through the skylight in the ceiling. I could hear the sound of, the low guttural sound of a pair of doves that sometimes make the roof of my building their home. And strangely enough, I could hear my stomach growling. I was getting hungry. Jill asked this question, "Do you love me?" And then she paused, waiting. "I'm curious where your question is coming from," I asked her, hoping to buy some time, leaning on an old therapist trick of turning the question back on the patient. Jill shifted in her seat and looked down. But she said, "I was actually thinking about my parents this morning, especially my mother." Whew, I sighed a deep sigh of relief. Could feel my pulse return to normal. She seemed eager to talk. "Tell me more," I said. Although we had talked about her mother on a number of occasions, this time Jill went into a lot more detail. She talked about having an older brother whom she adored and who seemed to be the apple of her mother's eye. Jill herself, however, felt like she could never quite measure up to her mom's expectations. If she decided to wear jeans, her mother told her she should have worn a skirt. If she decided to wear makeup, her mother told her she should have gone natural. If she went natural, her mother told her she should have worn makeup. If she decided to drink tea, her mother told her she should have drunk water. You get the idea. In addition to this constant disapproval, Jill mentioned her mom's unpredictable anger and that she grew up feeling like she was walking on eggshells. At this point in the session, Jill grew quiet. She got a pained look on her face, and her eyes slowly filled with tears. I waited for a moment, and waited until I felt like it was the right time, and said to her, "Jill, I get the sense that perhaps you're remembering a particular experience of her anger, something that was really painful." She looked at me briefly, and then took a deep breath. She said, "I remember when I was 10 years old, sitting at the dining room table with my family for dinner one night. At some point during the meal, my mom asked me to pass her the basket of rolls that were next to me. As I was passing the basket of rolls toward her, I accidentally knocked over her glass of water, causing the water to pour onto her plate and onto her lap. Jill said, my mom exploded, jumped up, and slapped me in the face. She yelled, 'God damn it, Jill. Can you get anything right? What were you thinking? Go to your room now and don't leave until I tell you to.' By this time, Jill was crying hard. But despite her tears, out gushed her next statements. She said, 'I remember curling up in a ball on the floor in my room by myself, thinking I could never get it right with her. That no matter how hard I tried, I could not get her to love me or to accept me.' And I remember thinking that there must be something inside of me that made her not love me, that it was my fault somehow. As you can imagine, by this time, Jill is crying so hard. Both her hands are cupping her face, tears just streaming down her cheeks. She said, "Well, you want to know what the worst thing was, Dr. Law?" I said, "Tell me." She said, "My mom never came to my room that night, never talked to me about what happened. I remember laying on the floor, praying, yearning that she would come, hug me, apologize, talk about what happened. She never did." I remember feeling so moved, so heartbroken for Jill. I also remember having this urge to strangle her mother. As a mom myself, I can't imagine how you justify treating your daughter this way. I offered words of comfort and empathy. I wanted to make sure that she felt heard and understood and gotten. At some point, I said to her, "Jill, you tell me that you grew up feeling like your mom didn't love you, but have you ever felt loved?" A smile slowly began to appear on her face, and I could tell that she was gazing over my head. She launched into a story about her father. She described him as well-intentioned and a slightly more consistently gentle presence. Although he was often physically absent because of a lot of business trips, when he was home, she felt like he was fairly attentive. According to her, he took some interest in the things that she pursued throughout her childhood and adolescence, things like ballet and piano lessons and her various sports. Although she wished that he had done a better job of protecting her from his wife's anger, I could tell that she appreciated him, that she had taken in some good from him. I then turned to Jill and I said, "Jill, tell me, do you feel love from me?" Jill was silent at first, thoughtful. But then a smile showed up on her face, the kind of smile that no one can fake. And she said, "Yes, I do. I do." I said, "So Jill, going back to your original question, do I love you? I'm curious. What have you experienced in here with me?" Memories came to her of times that she had been vulnerable and I'd been there for her, of times that she had been difficult and I was patient, time after time, of times that she had berated herself and I fought for her again and again. Finally, I said, "So Jill, it sounds like to me you have felt loved by me." I hope that the manner in which I convey this story, this moment of meaning, this experience, that you can tell, I found Jill lovable. I really did. Her story, her essence, her pain, who she was, it moved me. It touched me. This wasn't just talk for me. And over the course of the work together, Jill began to talk about changes she started experiencing, changes emotionally, relationally, spiritually, even physically. If she was in emotional pain, it was my empathy and understanding that helped calm her. If she happened to be depressed or down, it was her attachment to me that was her greatest protection. As a therapist, words are one of my primary commodities, but it was really what I showed Jill through the relationship that mattered the most. And over the course of the work together, from this moment of meeting, this session that I've described to you onward, I could tell that Jill believed I loved her, and it changed her life. Thank you.